Coming up on today's After News, a WWE referee is getting back in the ring.
Lex Luger's out of his wheelchair with DDP.
Enzo Amore shoots on AEW, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Cody Rhodes.
And Karrion Kross contrasts that with a heartfelt message to his WWE fans.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the After News. So, what is this new WWE trademark, Calyx?
Calyx.
Loads of speculation
I'm getting
on
a
that.
Calyx for my Kia later on. Actually.
Recently.
You can fit in our car.
There was a load of thought behind the fact it could be a new gimmick for Sol Ruka, whose real name is Calyx, spelled differently with a C with a K. But no, that is not the case. Fightful Select are reporting. In fact, it is for an in-ring return for Jessica Carr. Yes, Jessica Carr, the referee. But as a wrestler. Apparently this was a name for her used at the recent Evolve tapings. Apparently WWE filmed 6 of those episodes, and Jessica Carr wrestled on the 4th one of them, working a tag team match. Now, she has wrestled for years on the indies as Canada Brink and Jessie K, as well as an NXT appearance as Kennedy Lewis.
Yeah.
But upon being hired by WWE, she obviously became a full-time referee. It was great at her job, but clearly the fire still burns. She wants to get involved in those matches a little bit more, hence why she could well be Calyx going forward. This is really exciting news. I like to see someone following their dreams.
It's interesting, this, isn't it? This is the first point at which I've kind of had no choice but to be like, Evolve. I'm intrigued. Because I hadn't really thought that before, and there was all the discussion coming out of the fact that it was going to be filmed at the Performance Centre. I think it's just going to be like a friends and family crowd, and even more like scaled down version of what you get with NXT, where again that audience feels like they're pretty much in the building every week. Featuring wrestlers again that just from a mix of Performance Centre standouts and people to do with this WWE ID and the next in line, and like it is a non-league version of NXT, which itself is always, as it should be, positioned as a developmental version of WWE. So it was going to be for the hardcores, the sickos, and the purists. But I don't know, this kind of thing adds a bit of extra spark, and who knows, like maybe Jessica Carr just again had that little itch to scratch as an ex-wrestler, and this was a way for her to do it. Maybe it could lead to something more down the line. I should
mention she wrestled under a mask on that.
Yeah, obviously protecting her integrity as what she's now known for, which is more as a full-time referee. I always think it's interesting when people within wrestling, because I know, even as little idiots on the internet that do nothing but aggregate and waffle about wrestling, that I've never actually wanted to be any closer than this.
Yeah.
Like, I never wanted to take a bump or anything like that. Like, I think it's the most incredible job that all of these people do in the world. We're going to talk about that in a bit more detail in our next story. But the people that are in wrestling close to it but then are not wrestling themselves, whether it's if they've had a background in it, whether they've always just had a thirst for talking or working or whatever it is, and then the opportunity presents itself, it must be kind of intoxicating.
Yeah.
You know, I think of someone like a Samantha Irvin, who said that it was always in her mind that she wanted to take it beyond announcing, and WWE didn't necessarily see it that way. It's pretty cool.
Really excited to see what this looks like.
Yeah.
Excited to see what Evolve looks like. It'll be fun to see a Wednesday Night War where AEW actually stand a chance as well. Because, of course, the previous one, NXT, unfortunately, before we decided who won that one, had to move because of the hockey.
That's right.
And now, if you look at it, I mean, they blow them out of the water every bloody week. So, fairer sort of match-up. Evolve versus AEW Dynamite.
Let us know what you think in the comments about any of what Wilborn just said.
We're in trouble because Andy's not here, aren't we?
Look, we'll move on to something completely different, but maybe the nicest news of the entire weekend in the wrestling world.
Yes, this was fantastic.
Video dropped on DDP's channel, where we've seen recently, obviously, as he's been doing for years, but doing stuff specifically with wrestlers. He'd seen, I think he was doing some, was it like the cold ice therapy thing with Britt Baker of late, about injury recovery and the like. Well,
we all know the Jake the Snake story.
Indeed, like Jake Robertson, the late great Scott Hall. Had better final years thanks to DDP, and they're like, well, the good work continues. And what an inspiring bit of video this is. He's been working with Lex Luger, obviously his former WCW colleague. Lex has had severe issues. He's been paralysed by spinal issues going back to 2007. There were periods in his life where advanced physiotherapy and the like were able to at least, very occasionally, get him up out of the chair. But I think by 2021, he was deemed basically, in a wheelchair forever, unable to walk, unable to have the strength to use his legs. Well, not so. I guess the physical therapy from DDP, alongside the support and the counselling and everything else that he offers. The video's there to go and watch, and we'll stick a link in their bio if we can, because it's definitely worth watching the whole thing. Lex Luger, obviously they're sitting, DDP's with him in his yoga studio, and at first it is just sort of movements that we're all very privileged to be able to do, but to Lex it's just a case of just half off the chair, the little tiny increments and stuff like that. And then later on through their time working together, not the first time Lex has been with DDP, He's actually in his wheelchair, not just a normal chair, and he's able to lift himself off that and onto it's kind of like a walking frame he's got, and then he stands, freestanding completely, and then he holds on and sits himself back down, and it's improving every bit by increments each and every single time. It's going to be amazing to watch that continue. Who knows? We're only kind of a week or 2 weeks off reporting the same sort of thing of watching Chris Bay. Obviously, completely different circumstances, Chris Bay and Lex Luger, but what wrestling can and does do to people's bodies, and then this is the harshest reality of it, and then get to see light at the end of the tunnel for these people. It's incredible stuff.
It is wonderful to see, because like you say, we just take it for granted these people falling on their back on a daily basis for our entertainment, but yeah, man, I just love watching DDP do what he does. He's a miracle worker, isn't he, really? And just a top bloke who never says, no, I don't think there's any. Every single person that you think, well, there's no chance. It's going to be nice to see them, tell some stories together and just, reconnect. And then he does stuff like this with Lex. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. And any support that you can lend or any just kind words you can send to DDP and Lex obviously would be much appreciated.
Something I would like. Triple H is going at the Hall of Fame this year for the second time, and he goes back a long way with DDP. All the way to the point where when he started using the cutter instead of the pedigree, DDP called and said, I can't get that over, can you do something else? And
yes.
He respected his wishes, and they've got like a long-standing friendship and the like, and a mutual respect, obviously. When Warrior went in and he called for the Jimmy Miranda Award, and that kind of morphed into the Warrior Award, and that morphed into itself kind of some warped PR for WWE. I wouldn't mind some sort of DDP award for the Hall of Fame. I'd put him in every year. But you can't. So if there's some way that every year on that one night where a lot of the old guard come together and pay tributes, if there's something that DDP's got his name attached to, where like an old wrestler can be paid tribute to, or somebody that's made some sort of incredible recovery story, DDP being at the front of that, I think would be a very nice and fitting gesture that once a year he gets his flowers.
Yeah, he deserves the acknowledgement. Absolutely top bloke, friend of the channel. Speaking of friends of the channel, Mark Henry and Joe Hendry. What? Yes, they are coming on tour with myself and Sweet Chin Disco. Joe Hendry will be at the dates in Manchester, Nottingham and Glasgow. Mark will also be doing those dates alongside Belfast, London and Birmingham as part of Sweet Chin Disco, the wrestling club night. It is such an amazing night to come to, coinciding with all the WWE shows on the road to WrestleMania, of course. Dice.fm if you want to get tickets for that. And, oh yeah, we're doing a world tour. Did we mention this? Manchester, Belfast, Glasgow, London, and then Las Vegas in the HyperX Arena the night before WrestleMania weekend. All the usual good stuff, ups and downs, wise, live podcasts, meet and greets, silly entrances for all of us. You know what to expect by now. WhatCulture.com/tickets if you want to join us for that. And if you're trying to go to the WWE shows, you'll have plenty of time to get to that after our show and plenty of time to get back for Sweet Chin Disco. As well as that, if you join us for SmackDowns, or the night of the SmackDown before WrestleMania, we'll be doing a live watch-along, live ups and downs, live WrestleMania preview podcast. Join us for all that. WhatCulture.com/tickets and Dice.fm if you want to join us for me, Mark Henry, and Joe Hendry. Dice.fm for tickets to that one. What a weird sentence.
You hear all those words and it's like, what's going on there? Best way to spend your wrestling days, and there's plenty of them on the road to WrestleMania. It's going to be awesome.
Speaking of what's going on there, Enzo Amore's been back on.
Right.
He got a promo, scorched earth basically, on everybody. He was outside
our old horn.
MetLife Stadium.
Dead easy to get in and out.
Yeah, he was in the car park of that.
Yeah.
Apologies to our editor Ryan. Thank you for this in advance, mate. Sorry, he said, I'm here at Life Stadium, but it could be worse. I could be in an empty parking lot like AEW. Actually, I could be in the used car parking lot called AEW, where her star has never been born. And then, of course, Big Bill works for them. He's doing great, guys. Yeah. Come on. He also shot on the Young Bucks, calling them old F's. I'm not going to make any more work for Ryan. And he talked about Kenny Omega saying, I'm Dusty Rhodes' #1 student. You can't teach that. Omega, I fought on a megaphone and I got more charisma coming out of my ass than when you talk on a microphone. That's just funny. He also then turned his guns on Cody Rhodes, saying, hey Cody, I hate to be the one to ruin your perfect story, but if you're Tom Brady, I'm more like Eli Manning. So I'm a two-time just like Eli, but unlike Eli, I'm a first ballot in the Hall, and that's word to Scott Hall, the late great. F Howard Fine, I don't need to go to acting class. Cody, you little F. Do you understand that?
I get all of
reference.
Well, look, that's it. I don't have any further questions for you because I understood all of that.
The Patriots were going for an undefeated season at the Super Bowl, and they lost to Eli Manning's New York Giants.
Right. Okay.
So I'm fairly certain that's what he's referring to there. But yeah, Enzo Amore back on the microphone, spitting fire.
I suppose we're part of the problem because we're aggregating it and it's a slow news day, but it's funny. It is funny. Of course, he's not been with WWE since 2018, outside of the appearance he made at the Survivor Series that year. When his T-shirt said he was doing good, so who are we to doubt it?
Yeah.
And then he's
got a lot of money to spend on disguises.
Indeed, he appeared at Madison Square Garden with Big Cass. Then as well, William Morrissey, I guess, briefly before when they kind of like turned Ring of Honor upside down for a second, but nothing really came of it long term. And yeah, Big Bill has gone on to have a second life as this Big Bill character. Less so for Enzo Amore, but you might have heard us talking about Miro's in-ring return in this morning's news video. Well, on that very same show, which will not spoil the results of, that took place in Qatar, Enzo Amore, I believe, at least it was on the card, teamed with Minoru Suzuki. In a tag team match. I can't even wrap my head around that. So I don't know if if they ended well or they did a bit at the end where Minoru Suzuki just kicked his ass. Like, you never stopped.
Minoru Suzuki got titties. Going down the line here.
Takes you back to those Cruiserweight episodes, doesn't it, where he just destroyed the whole roster one after another.
What are we doing? What are we doing here?
One after another. Should we move on to wrestlers acknowledging people in a very different way?
Yes.
Our old friend. Hey! Karrion Kross has been on X, not in the same way that most of this stuff has been lately in the build-up to a potential WrestleMania match with Sami Zayn to whatever it is that he's been building. He's kind of just said every main eventer's name since about January, and it might work out that he gets a WrestleMania singles match out of it. I don't know.
He's bloody great.
He's charming, he's piss funny, he's kind of like managed to work his Twitter and his TV characters together seamlessly, that you get slightly bluer content on X, but then ultimately it's just now linked to what he's doing on television as well. He's class partner, but he's also like, it always comes across like quite a decent fella.
Yeah.
And there's been a bit of that kicking around ultimately.
I love a Jesse Ventura impression.
Oh my God, the best in the world. Like, if this Saturday night's main event run goes on and for whatever reason Jesse Ventura can't make a taping, they could just drop Karrion in and just not cut to the commentary desk and nobody would think otherwise. He said, did Karrion, I'd be lying if I said I haven't felt a major shift in the way a lot of fans feel towards me over the last year, more so recently. Just putting it out there that I see you and appreciate you. And he's done these hands and he's done that hand. And then he's done TikTok. Because it's still Karrion. It's still wicked Karrion Kross jacket. So things are going good. And I will say, I don't know if it's just he's become a sentimental favourite of us on the Raw review or whatever, but I sense that sentiment. Not that I'm saying we were first to it. I just feel like that sentiment is growing by the week, and more people come. There was definitely a week where he was cutting a promo in the hotel and he deadpanned about The Miz. Yeah, he's definitely dead. And that was like a real turning point, wasn't it?
Power alarm went off.
Yeah. And ever since then, with The Miz moving and with the White Six kind of disappearing and him sort of surviving that storyline and almost like being the stronger one coming out of it, the momentum is with him.
Yeah, I really, really like him. Like, I've gone on a very much a roller coaster ride with him. Like, when he first came to NXT, he was killing everyone. That was great. And then they destroyed him on the main roster. And then he sort of had kind of bland matches in NXT. It was all in a very dark time for that show. And then, it was like, we'll bring him up to the main roster. And then it was like, there was something going on with Roman and someone else, and people were like, what are you doing here, Karrion Kross? And I was kind of with them. And then, like you say, he's just won me over, and I think that treat is directed at us, basically, here at WhatCulture. But we love you, Karrion Kross.
Yes.
And I think, people are very much like, no, we're just shot at WrestleMania. Give it a chance. He can certainly talk me into the building. I mean, I'll be there regardless. So.
Yeah, I think he's... those exact words, talk me into the building. He has done, if nothing else, talked his way into these spots, and I think he's entertained people enough. When the bell rings, we will see, because there's not been that many matches for him of late to particularly take the opportunities that he's making for himself with these promos. But certainly the promos, the potential build, the idea that he's like positioned himself as like this kind of puppet master catalyst for every bad thing that's happened. To be fair, he's always had enough people on the ride for it. You always see fan-made videos about how like people have turned heel or things have gone dark after Karrion's like mixed in. So I'm glad that he's been able to build off that as well. It does feel like quite an organic groundswell.
Clearly having some fun with what he's doing. That's the most important thing.
All the best to Karrion Kross. We're big fans as always. We'll be talking about him most likely on our Raw preview podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and likely on the review tomorrow because he's always in the mix.
Yes, exactly. Let us know your thoughts on that and everything we discussed in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, of course. And if you want to check out this morning's news video, it's available right here. Go on, give it a click.
Click it.